Welcome to today's video with me, Cambridge David, where we're going to learn how to answer Part 1 questions about homes and accommodation. Now, homes and accommodation is a really common topic in the IELTS exam because everybody lives somewhere and there's so much vocabulary connected with this topic. So let's take a look at some of the current questions on the exam. Now, as you can see, the majority of questions need you to talk in the present tense, so the grammar should be fairly straightforward. But the problem is that there's some specific vocabulary that you will need to know. So let's take a look at question number 2 about transport facilities. You can obviously talk about roads, the quality of the roads. Maybe you can talk about how many cycle paths there are. Maybe you could talk about public transport, i.e. buses, trains, subways. Maybe you can use the word commute, because if you commute, that means you travel for work. You can talk about the rush hour. That's the time when most people travel to work or back home at the end of the day. So if you come to London, the rush hour is terrible. There's so much traffic then. And remember, traffic is an uncountable noun. So there is so much, or there is a lot of traffic, or not much traffic. You could use words like, to be honest, the traffic or the transport could be better. It could be better. Or maybe in your city, the transport is excellent and everything runs very smoothly. But somehow I doubt it. And then you need to give an example of why the transport is good or bad. So you can say, for example, or for instance, or one example of this would be. So for example, are the transport facilities to your home very good? Oh, in fact, they're excellent because I live near to a train station. So to be honest, they could maybe make the trains a little bit more frequent at the weekend, but apart from that, they're very good. So there's a good example answer for that question. Let's take a look at questions number 3 and 8. Now here you need to compare and contrast. So useful phrases might be, I would rather. For example, I would rather live in a house than a flat because blah, blah, blah. You could say that one is vastly superior. So I think that living in a flat is vastly superior to living in a home because you get a much better view. So it is vastly superior. You could also say that the two things are strikingly different. Strikingly different. This means that there's a big difference between the two. They are strikingly different. And another way to say that is they are worlds apart. They are worlds apart. For example, my home now is worlds apart from my previous apartment. It's much more spacious. That's another good word, a spacious apartment, meaning that it has a lot of space. In question number 4, you can describe the room by talking about the objects in it. For example, it has a bed, a double bed, a single bed, it has a desk, it has a wardrobe, things like that. Or you could describe, for example, the size of it. It is spacious, or it is very cramped. Cramped, there's not much space. Or you can say It's very cozy. Cozy. Now, cozy means that it's not very large, but it is comfortable. So there's a great word to use. Cozy. Take a look at question number 16. What do you usually, don't forget the pronunciation, usually do in your home? Now, here there are some very nice phrases you can use. You could say, more often than not, I blah, blah, blah. More often than not means that you usually do it. So, more often than not, I go on social media. Or you could say, from time to time. From time to time. That just means sometimes. So, from time to time, I read a book. From time to time. Question number 6 is an interesting one. It's there to see if you can use the present perfect tense. Now here you could either say, I've lived there. Now notice it's not I have lived. I've lived. I've lived there for plus a length of time. So I've lived here for 6 years. Or you could use I've lived here since, and then you need a point of time. For example, I've lived here since 2017. And that's how to use the present perfect for this question. Now, take a look at question number 1. This question gives you a perfect opportunity to use a conditional sentence. If I could live in any kind of home, I would like blah, blah, blah. So, if I could live in any home, I would like to live in a villa near the beach. That would be very nice, wouldn't it? Or if I could live anywhere, I would choose Guangzhou because that's a beautiful city. Or here's another lovely alternative. If money were no object. If money were no object. That means if I had lots of money and money didn't matter. So if money were no object, I would live in the center of Beijing, for example, if money were no object. So, you've got some great vocabulary there. You know how to use a conditional sentence. You recognize the present perfect. And now you can answer part 1 questions about homes and accommodation. Join me again soon for another video with me, Cambridge David.